On today's episode of Ask Terra, we have Michael Fortune, who can assist us in requisite documentation to sell your property. So Michael, thank you so much for coming to meet with us today. It's a pleasure having you.
It's my pleasure being here.
So, I thought there was a lot that you can offer to our viewers, right? Speaking a bit about your history, the work you've done, working with different lawyers throughout the country, and maybe in providing the different requirements for completing a real estate transaction. So start by telling us a little bit about how you got into this and what you can offer.
So my name is Michael Fortune. I've been in this field all my life, basically, working with several attorneys. So my first job with my uncle who passed, he was a general practitioner. He did everything, a bit of everything. And for me, I love the idea of trying to figure out stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have actually thrown me out to the wolves. And doing that, that taste of learning drives me to go to different departments, especially when it comes to the civil aspect of it, conveyancing. So we would have actually be able to do some searches, which is title searches.
Right.
And learning about the title searches for the property, and also acquiring whatever connection, which is your deeds.
Yeah.
So a client may come to you and say they have this property and they want to sell.
Yep.
But they don't have all the documents.
Yes, correct.
So this is where I will come in. You will call me and I will actually be able to maybe interview and find what documents they have.
Yeah, Michael, that's absolutely spot on. We see that all the time. People come to us and they don't know what is required to sell their property, and they don't have half of it because that's not what they do every day, and we understand that. So this is where you can come in and really help, right? We're all about offering service at Terra Caribbean. I believe you offer service and everything else will follow. So by you being able to do some of these searches and maybe even take it further, right? Because once an agreement is signed, there's certain required documentation to complete the transaction.
Yes.
So maybe you could walk us through some of that, what's required and the process in getting them.
So over the, let me say, you will have to actually show that you have title.
First and foremost.
So you may have a copy of a deed, but you have to trace that deed back to the root. Yeah. So a root is 20 years. So you want to see how that deed come to you. So you may have inherited through letters of administration or, will.
Correct.
There's a possibility that it would have been gifted to you. And then you will have to understand, you have to look at the document to see the parties' names, how it come down. Sometimes you have that, and the records for different departments. Let's use, for example, the warden office or the city corporation will not have your name on it. It will have the previous owner or two owners back name. So you need to actually bring all those records up to date to them. So you can get a certificate of payment to take to WASA to get a WASA clearance. Right.
So it's not only checking that you have clear title, which is something the buyer's lawyer would do, but then you would check to see that all of the regulatory bodies are up to date and current.
Yes.
Reflecting the true ownership of the property.
That's right. So for each organization, they have their own principle of how they operate. And what I will do is actually go to them and also try to keep updated with their information, because they can change on you just like that.
Yes, I was going to say that. Even for you and I, it's a constant learning process as things change day to day. So for a layman or a property vendor to go through this process, it can be extremely tedious and frustrating. Yes. You understand the process, you're up to date on some of the changes, if not all. When you get down there, you might learn of a new one. But for instance, there's a fairly new change happened in November this year, wasn't it?
November last year, 2024. 1st of November, WASA is no longer doing WASA clearance certificates for land-only property. So for that now, before you need to have your WASA clearance for house and land or land only. WASA is no longer doing it.
Right.
So you now have to actually inform your clients this cannot be done.
Yes.
Right.
So that's a great point, because so once you have a piece of land that does not have an account with WASA, there's no clearance required.
No clearance.
It makes it much easier. But obviously, a land with any kind of structure, any kind of WASA connection, you would have to go through the clearance process.
Yes. So you will have to actually apply for a connection, which is separate, but which takes a longer period. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So WASA clearance takes anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks. It will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But you deal with an organization where there's officers that will have to go out to the field.
Yes.
That could be longer, and they may face some hiccups. I had a client just recently inform me, well, he hired me to get the clearance for him, and only when the officer went there, the line which he originally had connected to the house was decommissioned, and they moved it to another line to the front of the house. It was the back of the front of the house.
Wow.
So the meter was on that decommission line. So he couldn't get the clearance because of that. So that actually is additional timeline.
Yes,
so you see so many obstacles, but I like the challenge in the sense of the obstacles is to get around and also learn how to actually avoid, also inform people this could be done or this can't be done.
Yes, and I've seen it, Michael, in working with you, that you get things done, which we really appreciate. And we want to encourage our buyers from the time they sign an agreement, right? So the general closing period is 90 days. From the time you sign an agreement, start the process.
Yes.
And more so the sellers, from the time they receive a binding agreement. Let's get Michael to look for the WASA clearance. Let's go through the assessment and show everything's in order, right? Let us plan, because the regulatory bodies, they take time. And as we said earlier, quite often you go down there and something has changed.
Yes. So is it to be helpful? All times, I will tell anybody who has a property in their possession, have copies of their documents. 35 copies, have at least 2. And don't keep them in the same place. Have them separate in case something happen. From time to time, check on them. Mm-hmm. Because you could get water damage, you could get something happen to it, and you may have to use it.
Yes.
So you need to actually know what it is you have in your possession. Make sure your information is clear, what it is you need to do. So even with a TNTech, you need to sign your agreement. So TNTech, you as the individual have to go in to sign your agreement. So you have to have your documents all together.
When you say sign your agreement, you mean to
yes.
open
so when
an
you
account?
Open an account with TNTech, so you have to sign for your meter.
Right, of course.
As the individual. So also, when you're doing your property, you have to know if it's residential or commercial, or residential/commercial.
Yes.
Right? So that determines your outcome of how your clearance will be done.
Right. Agreed.
Right? So sometimes we have properties, and over the years we did alterations to it. And moving from one tenant, you end up having apartments.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is deemed as residential, commercial, because you're getting an income from it.
Yes.
So when WASA, the authorities goes there and investigate, you will see changes. If you have your property under construction, you have to notify me and let me know what is the construction it's being done, because the clearance would not be done, because they would not know if the property is being extended to a commercial or residential. If you're gonna add on a pool on all these things, how many pipes you're gonna have externally. Yeah. So these things affect the outcome, the length of time you get your stuff.
Yes. So when the inspectors go to the site, they're looking for any irregularities, right?
Yes. Definitely.
Anything that doesn't match the current registration, and right. So again, if you have a pool and you're not registered for a pool, you should declare that. If you've changed it to multiple use and you have several people living there, declare that early.
That's right.
So that we can clear all the liens on your property and it'll be clear to sell.
they also request that you give directions and a description of the property.
Correct.
So most times, if you're gonna hire me, I will ask that. I'll ask for a map, a direction, how to locate the property, the description. Because you may be living in a condo, and I need to know that condo may have several building structures on that compound. Which is yours?
Yeah, correct. So which you share with WASA so they're
Yes.
informed when they visit. So yeah, as we run through a couple of the things that are required to complete a sale, obviously we have the WASA clearance, which we touched on.
Yeah.
We have TN Tech, which we would have to settle.
Yes.
Obviously we have property tax, which I would like to touch on briefly.
Yes.
So there's 2009 and then there's the current PIN number.
Right. So up to the 2009, that is dealing with the before they that was the last time they collect fees for your property. So the last changes they would have done with information would have been up to 2014. But with the property tax, which was implemented recently, the PIN number through the application of the owner of the property, they will have to make sure they provide all the information in respect to pictures of the house. It's similar like if you're doing a valuation, the side profile, the front, and the back. You're going to state the rooms. So the forms actually is online. It will actually tell you what it is you need to actually fill out. And you're applying for that PIN number, which is going to be registered to you to pay your taxes going forward.
Yeah. So it is quite a simple process and you can do it online.
Yes, you can do it online.
But let's be clear that it's strictly for residential property at this stage.
Yes, at this point in time, they're only doing residential registration. So you could actually, similar like if you have a house which is split, they will do it, but it will show that they're doing the residential part of it,
Right.
not the commercial.
Yeah, so to complete a transaction, again, you're going to need your 2009 receipt and your recent PIN. You need to at least show you've been registered if you're selling a residential property.
Yes.
Other properties that aren't deemed to be residential do not require a PIN to complete a transaction at this stage.
That's right.
So then one of the other requirements on leasehold land will be consents, so consent to assign.
So
And it varies, Michael. We must say that like we sit here in St. Clair and we sit on land owned by the state. You have to get consent from the state. But Woodbrook is Port of Spain Corporation.
yes, similar.
And St. James has several different lessors that you would have to get consent from. So you can help with that process, can't you?
Yes. Once wherever the property is located, I will be able to help. Once I get whatever authorization from the vendor, I will go ahead and actually be able to go to the institutions and actually be their agent and operate and bring everything up to date and make the transfers for them.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You would need a letter from the owner saying, I have employed Michael Fortune to act on my behalf.
Yes, I hereby authorize Michael Fortune to do and transact any business on behalf of me for the property situated at. So you pinpointing the property, pinpointing what it is I'm supposed to do for you.
Right.
All right, copies of your IDs. I would like to get 2 forms of your IDs, valid IDs. So we go forward from there. I will actually go to the institution. Whatever questions that they may pose to me, once I can answer, I will answer. If anything, you will just actually furnish me with whatever answer I need.
Right. And depending on which lessor you go to, I imagine some of them may have a draft consent letter, or you may have to draft something.
Most times I draft the letter. I
right.
draft the letter once, or I have the information of the client. I will forward them the draft letter. They will look at it, and once they understand, they will actually sign it. I'll need the physical copy, the hard copy. Some places may take the email, but most times they ask for the actual physical copy, the original.
Yeah.
So once I have that in hand, I proceed. So we have, as you rightfully said, Port of Spain is bounded by so many different property owners, which is the city, which is also estates and different people. And that is where we have to find out where are the boundaries, where they fall. So
Yeah.
sometimes you yourself might think, I belong to X, but you're really across the road.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're across the street, you actually belong to City Corporation.
Yes.
Yes.
It really is quite complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, and without having knowledge of the lay of the land, you can waste a lot of time, and you can end up where you don't have the required documentation.
Yes. And you do get frustrated.
Absolutely.
Right, because you would have inherited something which never got updated because of the period these things wasn't being done.
Yeah.
And you have a aging city and buildings where people actually held on to it, and now you have gotten it and you didn't know.
Yeah.
So
Or there may have been a change in the lessor and the regulatory body
Yes.
that you're unaware of, right? So I want to close by saying that we encourage all of our sellers to get active, and from the time they sign an agreement, hire somebody like yourself to get the process going early. Because I've seen it time and time again where we sign agreements, we're halfway through the closing period and nobody has any documents. They haven't commenced the washer clearance. They didn't know they needed a consent to assign. They don't know how to draft the letter requesting the consent. So again, I want to encourage all owners to be proactive and get on this ASAP. As we sign an agreement, we, Terra Caribbean, will be encouraging you to use somebody like Michael to start the process and get it going.
I want to say thank you for the opportunity. And honestly, this is a wonderful thing that people will get to know, and try not to actually wait until when the closing period is near to
Correct.
actually try to get it done, because you will be frustrated and you will frustrate the system.
It can cost you a lot of money if you're
Yes.
not prepared. It can cost you the sale if you're not prepared. Because sometimes the buyers are on tight timelines, and if you
That's
can't meet
right.
those timelines, life circumstances change. I've seen buyers walk away. So thank you very much, Michael, for coming to meet with us, and we really appreciate having you.
Thank you again.